The shots right there.
And here are the rallies, the percentages as well.
Yeah, interesting to see that it was only the medium rallies where Yuan Jianan, meaning 5 to 8 shots, that Yuan Jianan was really in control, but the majority of rallies are less than 4 shots. I mean, you can look at the numbers, 33 and 16, that's table tennis. Yeah. And the style that they play, they both look to kill as early as possible, especially Yuan Jianan. But if that's not working out for her, I think games 3 through 5 really created that top bar statistic up there. So according to our statistics here, these are the places, the heat map, where the serves of Lin Gaoyuan were all played. All fairly central on the table, slight variations there, a little bit out to the backhand side, but half long, that's what it's all about. Something, just a little something, but we'll see. It was enough. Normally you see slightly more variation in serves than that.
Yeah.
So here's a look at the winners, meaning the last shot of any rally that goes beyond the serve. And as you can see, Zheng Yijing starting to mix it up a bit. I mentioned that she was playing into the middle, but deep to the backhand. You can recall a lot of step arounds here. Almost everything to the forehand. Look at that, the red side of the table. Adriana Diaz only winning in the middle and the forehand. So we'll look here at the winners, the final shot of any rally extending beyond the serve from Kasumi Ishikawa, middle of the table more or less, and then also deep into the backhand, but then on that far corner, the step around, a pretty wide variety of shots, so she's keeping it quite unpredictable. This is where efficiency recovery comes from.
Yeah.
In terms of the rallies here, I mean, all the short rallies, not all, but just over 60%, and the mid rallies as well. And in the women's game, these long rallies, unless you're playing a chopper with 2 players this fast, there weren't so many long rallies, only 6 for the entire match. So that took care of business.
Listen, with an event like this and the amount of points on offer, she could go very, very far.
So here's a look at the winners from game number 1. Ugo Calderano keeping it deeper on the table. Also a bit more variation in terms of side, going deeper into the wide backhand of Darko Jorgic. It's quite interesting. You would think he'd want to stay away from the backhand of Jorgic, but he's done that by making it uncomfortable and bringing him more center on the table. So we'll look here at the winners in game number 3 from Darko Jorgic. Deep to the forehand corner was the sweet spot here, but mid-distance on the table to the backhand as well. And just sprinkling it around in between, enough to keep Ugo Calderano guessing. That's part of the reason you saw Ugo behind the table so much. The variation that Jorgic brought for winners. Now remember, these are just the winners, the final shots of the rally. But he just shows that he can go anywhere from near the table, which means a lot of angular advantage.
So we got the winners here after that first game, Adam.
Yeah, you can see Felix Lebrun varying it up a bit more right in the middle. This is exactly what Timo Boll, web coach MD, would say. Right down the middle of the table, hit him on the elbow first, and he's mostly keeping it to the backhand there. So a little look at the winners here from Felix Lebrun, just mixing it up again all around the table. That one at the baseline, a little bit short, but remember, a winner is not necessarily an attack. He's used his pushes very well right there in that backhand corner of Chodong. You can see 3 of them. That means the bounces there, they're going to be quite deep in the backhand corner.
Of the Singapore smash, can he go one beyond? Now those long rallies, 75% going his way. That's what stood up. Anything beyond the short rallies, he was in control of, wasn't he? And that was why he was dominant here. Such a good performance and so entertaining. What a way to start things off.
So here's a look at the winners on both sides. The last shot of every rally. Wang Manyu, well, clearly had more of them than Adriana Diaz. Only had 5 winners. That just goes to show you how many points she won outright on serve. 2 outright points on serve. The dots, you can count them for Wang Manyu. But a pretty good variety of placement on the table. A lot of attack winners, not too many push winners. The one who's got the most funky pips, defensive style. Speaking of love, Adriana Diaz loves to play the ball in the serve. Wide to the backhand. Interesting. Middle of the table. So just to clarify here. Wow, I'm going to imagine those are winners. 14% near the net. Let's just assume for a minute that those are her winners. So we'll look here at Sun Ying-sha's service placement in game number 1, really varying it quite a bit. Looks like a map of Indonesia, sort of in the islands out there, but it's quite spread out. You can see short to the forehand, a little bit deeper on the backhand side, but remember, this is only the second bounce, so that one that's on the far left of the screen really is going to be curving deep into the backhand. That's incredible variation on serves.
So, there are your statistics from that match. In fact, she slightly won the longer ones there, and in the middle, and that's a bit surprised, perhaps?
Well, I think it was because a handful of things. One, there were so few of them. I mean, if you look at the numbers above the percentages, almost everything was 4 shots or less. If she could survive, she's strong behind the table, Mittelham, but getting through those first 4 shots in the rally, that's another story. So look here at the winners that Ma Long hit. Remember, this is the last shot of any rally that went beyond the serve. Mostly attacks, but even pushes. He had his fair share of surprise pushes at good lengths. Mostly pinning the middle, staying away from the forehand. Smart play. Lee Song-soo is very strong on the wide wing. And that one very memorable point where he hit that hooking forehand.
Yeah. And talking of family, he just loves to play with his 6-year-old son. So here are the serves for the match from Ma Long.
Remember, that is the second bounce. Look at that one on the line, as wide as can be. Wow. And then one long to the forehand. Some of the best aces in modern history have been courtesy of Ma Long, so that's really incredible variation. Let's hear from the man who gave a wonderful interview recently, Ma Long himself. So we'll look here at the serves in game 1 from Zhang Rui, keeping it unpredictable, long to the backhand, generally against a chopper, a good idea. Again, with short pips, more variation, but if you want to get into the rally quickly, still, that's only the second most popular. Half long, just as usual, so Han Ying isn't comfortable to get in on an attack either. So a little look for you at Han Ying serves in game number 2. Mostly half long in that middle of the table. From time to time, deep to the backhand, just to keep her opponent slightly off balance behind the table. Zhang Rui has been so strong, and only a spattering, just a sprinkle there. Another SP words in this sport to that half long distance on the forehand side. So a little look at the table here. Where did the winners go? Well, for Han Ying, it was all forehand and middle, but mainly forehand. Zhang Rui everywhere on the table, but mainly that backhand deep corner, the step around power, and also the parallel, but that 50%. I mean, that's everywhere else on the table combined. So that's the sweet spot. This is the type of stat that I think Tamara Boros, in theory, could be watching and feeding down to Han Ying, but obviously the last seconds here. So we'll look at all the shots from game number 1 on both sides. Wang Manyu all around the table, trying everything she can. Remember, this is not just the winners, but in terms of the differences between them, the main thing is look at Yang Shaoxin's gap there. There's a nice giant hole in the middle. That's because of the different surfaces on her racket, meaning she plays the ball way shallow on the table sometimes, and a handful you can see there just inside the baseline. A little look here at the winners in game number 2 from Wang Manyu. The game she played equally well as her opponent did in game number 1. Deep backhand side of the table, just enough on that short or the wide forehand, right at the baseline to keep her opponent in check, but mostly in the middle. So we'll look here at the winners from game number 1. Lin Gaoyuan had his 2 spots there. 100% of his shots were in the back third of the table and to the backhand and the middle, but Wang Chuqin, a very varied opponent. 4 different spots, really more stamps on his passport there in terms of where he's dangerous. Willing to go out to that deep backhand corner of Lin Gaoyuan, wide to the forehand corner at the baseline.
Second game.
Looking at those rallies, we ended up having more long rallies than we thought we might a little bit later on in the match.
Interestingly enough, the medium rallies were probably a determining factor. Only one more of the short rallies favoring Wang Chuqin. Really, it's just a little bit here in those tight games. Wang Chuqin took it. So a little look here at the serves in game one for Xia. Remember, two right-handed players. This is the second bounce of the serve, so into the middle a bit, shorter to the forehand side, just keeping her a little bit uncomfortable to take that opening forehand attack. Remember, she did have that one ripping receive. So here's a look at the winners from Zhu Chunhui, meaning the last shot of any rally where she won the points. So, wide forehand of Xia, middle, but then a lot of mid-distance there. Again, this to me suggests a massive change of pace. She plays something familiar to Xia, the backhand and the middle baseline, and then slows it down, spins it more shallow. That's what that says to me. So here were all the shots played by Xia in game number 4. Again, middle, deep backhand corner, and wide to the side. I mean, overwhelmingly, wow, it's a pretty significant percent there. So we'll look at the serves from the player who has just shocked the world by even being here in game number 7. Forehand and middle. I mean, that's the second bounce of the serve, by the way. So we'll look here at Chen Tianyi's winners in the last game. Remember, Sofia Polkanova left-handed, so she's on the right side of the table, mostly staying to the backhand. And remember, this is where the bounce of the ball is. So occasionally a bit more middle and some wider to the forehand. That is the bounce of the ball. So if it's coming from a forehand, those shots to the forehand are bending wider. Chen Tianyi's used her side spin well as well. Only a very small few can. But Chen Tianyi in the last 4 years has developed a lot and is doing wonderfully well. But Chen Tianyi, the winner meaning the last shot of any given rally, she's pinning that backhand corner. I mean, look at that. 77% to the line, a little bit half long, but she's going deep and she's going wide. That makes it very uncomfortable and leaves Sofia Polkanova exposed if she goes there to then come back and cover the wide forehand. So here's a look at all the shots that Ma Long played in game number 2. So remember, Dong Qiu right-handed, so deep to the backhand, the middle, but I mean, overwhelmingly, it's middle and backhand side of the table, especially the backhand. But even variation in depths, not afraid to play right to the corner and just sprinkle it in on the forehand from time to time to keep Dong Qiu guessing, not allow him to move early. A look at the winners from Truls Morgard. Basically, just put paint on a brush and swing it around on the other end of the table. They are everywhere. Truls is the most well-traveled man on that half of the table. He has seen it all. Deep to the corners, just behind the net. Touch shots, shallow, chop blocks, kill shots. A look at the winners from the world number 1. Soft touch, right in near the net on the backhand side. I mean, really mixing it up, looking for answers wherever he can get them. And with the variety of shots coming in, it's no wonder. But the deep, wide backhand. So look at the serves here from Ugo Calderano, mostly keeping it tight. You can see that second bounce much closer to the net on the table than other serves we've seen so far. This is a player who knows that Quadri is very capable of opening attacks from anything near that baseline. That's Ugo playing very smart to set up a, well, fairly convincing win, 11-7.
So what do you make of that then for Chen Tianyi? the serves.
Yeah, the tischtennis is placing the most of the services around the middle, which is the part of the table where the player has to decide if it takes with the backhand or the forehand shot. And also you can see she play one in the backhand.
Love all.
So the winners then from Chung Roy spread around.
Yeah, it's actually diverse, all table. Yeah, most of those, yeah, 30% in the middle, the winners.
But what you were enjoying was how she suddenly became a lot more aggressive when she was in a lot of trouble. So the serves, she's kind of gone back to her first game tactic there, Chen Tenyi.
Yeah, exactly. She came back and she's serving again more around the middle. Of course, she also needs to make the variation, so she served 2 times long in the deep backhand from Chung Roy.
Let's have a look at the Ma Long serves.
Wow, as tight as can be, Calderano good inside the table, but mostly to that deep, by deep I mean wide forehand, but shallow. That's going to stay inside the table. And he's keeping him quite low as always, but a bit unpredictable, just sprinkling a spattering more to the middle of the table. He delivers serves quite similarly, so you can't tell until he contacts it where he's going to go. That's one of the reasons he's one of the toughest players to receive. A little look at the serves from both sides in game number 2. Ma Long's on the left side of the table where his serves bounced. Interesting there. So you've got deep to the backhand. Nothing too crazy there. Fairly similar. I think in general it's just going to be a question of trying to find opportunities to get Ma Long to do what he doesn't want. And the thing is, because he's so adaptable, his receive game is incredible. And his serve game is tough to receive.
Yeah, the winners from Ma Long in that previous game, with the bulk of them just in the middle, going towards that area on the backhand there for Ugo Calderano.
Just a reminder that Ma Long is incredibly difficult to predict. Middle of the table, comfortable on the corners, backhand. Calderano is going to be more consistent, especially from behind the table. So the winners for Ugo Calderano, look at that, almost nothing to the backhand. Ma Long, I mean, really, he'll turn the corner from time to time, as we saw late in the match, but almost everything that ended a point in favor of Ugo Calderano was forehand, middle, and just barely on the backhand side for that one. But for a player who got 11 points first this time around, didn't use his timeout, and extends the match, Ugo Calderano with some interesting data there on screen.
Fifth game, Calderano to serve.
He is through to the final repeat of Singapore Smash 2022. And let's have a look at some of those stats there.
Yeah, again, Ma Long in every single category. The long rallies overwhelmingly, which, as you can remember, just sort of meant Ugo farther from the table in general. The short rallies were the closest, but other than that, every category he controlled. So 4-1.
Just looking at the serves here, Fan Zhendong, what he's distributed to Wang Chuqin, and it's, what do you feel?
Well, he's definitely working on the backhand a bit. I mean, you can see him a much shorter serves than usual. This is a guy on the receiving end, Wang Chuqin, who's comfortable at the baseline of the table, so that's much shorter than usual.
So let's see what the stats are saying here. All shots from Fan Zhendong.
Interesting, interesting. Again, you've got a lefty on the other side of the table, so that means he's hitting wide to the forehand. Think about how many times you saw him reaching out with his backhand to extend to the wide forehand. Occasionally deep to the backhand, but he's staying away because Wang Chuqin is not only comfortable to turn, but he's also quite confident to take his backhand.
Yeah, after those last 2 events where he was bundled out early, look at these stats then.
So, short rallies gets the majority of them, but the medium rallies really stood out. I mean, in every category across there, that's the reason he wins 4-1. He just left there no questions to be answered. A look at the serves here in game number 1 from the world number 1. Mostly short to the forehand side, just spatterings of long serves. Again, this is the second bounce on the receiver's side. So near the baseline in the backhand, one in the middle, just enough to keep it a little bit unpredictable. So here's a little look at where Sun Ying-sha was serving in game number 2. Quite different than game number 1. Moved more towards the center of the table. That one serve that was right near the edge, you can see. Remember, that's its second bounce. There was an apology there. But everything has shifted a little bit. Generally speaking, similar pattern.
Question is to if the serve was more to was a short but on the forehand of Wang Mengyu, why not keep doing that, or at least have a few of them down in that direction?
So a little look here at the world number 1, Xiao Pong, a little fatty, Fan Zhendong. His percentages here, where he was playing his winners, being the last shot of any rally that didn't end on a serve. Pretty good mix there to the middle of the table. That's most of them. I hope everything's smooth because we're all excited to see the game number 4 come back. A look at the serve percentage here of Ma Long. That deep corner. Remember, this is based on the second bounce. That's a shockingly high percentage for long serves.
Long serves, yeah. Onto the backhand.
Right.
Of his opponent.
Now, I think that gives him a few possibilities. If he is going to turn, he has a little bit more time because it's coming from deeper on the table, which means Fan Zhendong is going to have less time. He's going to have to look for ways to really surprise Fan Zhendong. So these are the winners for Fan Zhendong, the shots that have ended the rally, whether they're push or attack. Deep to that backhand corner, I mean, really pinning it. All the other spots on the table combined are less percentage, 48, compared to that deep backhand corner. He's winning a lot of points in the backhand-to-backhand rally, and even when it's the forehand, steps around occasionally.
So we have the end of match analysis and the win percentage on those rallies.
Yeah, Fan Zhendong shockingly controlling the two. I'd say short is going to be major for them. The long rallies as well, and even 50-50 in the medium rallies. So there you have it. It was a 4-1 victory, and I think the stats definitely support that. So after the look at the shot that Xia had to finish that game, you can look at her serves here. That's the second bounce from Sun Ying-sha on every serve. A lot to the middle, just occasionally deeper to the backhand rather, because she's playing a lefty, mixing it up. Tactically speaking, Dana, anything stand out to you here?
Yeah, it's most of the services are around the middle. And here we can see the winners from Qian Tianyi against the Sun Ying-sha, the winner's shots, and she's shooting against the backhand side from Sun Ying-sha. And yeah, it's the straight in the backhand side from the Sun Ying-sha, the most of the winners, and some are with really good angles in the forehand.
So here's a look at the serves from both of these players. Xia really just mixing it up quite well. Qian Tianyi at a few spots she liked occasionally. And her humility, no questions about it. She's still quite young at only 22 years old, but a look at the match, almost dead even. But as the longer the rally got here, medium rallies quite heavily in Xia's favor, and the long rallies, that means anything more than 5 shots, which really puts a lot of pressure on Qian Tianyi to unnaturally finish a rally.